Hey everybody, welcome to the Game Plan. Of course, my name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at VerifiedInvesting.com. All right, some big headlines in the overnight. We heard from Trump. He backed off on Powell. He said he will not be firing Powell. And in addition, he talked about China and the trade war. He said China tariffs at 145% will be coming way down, but not going to zero. The markets ripped on these two things. Now, remember, the fact that he was thinking about firing Powell, or at least talking about it, that was a major culprit for keeping interest rates higher, which was hurting the markets. Instability in our financial system. Now, that means that yields are falling today. And as we know that yields go down when there's certainty, right? It brings it more back to a normalization versus other countries not wanting to buy our debt, which then pushes the 10-year up or yields to the upside. The trade war with China, 145% tariffs, has basically stopped all trade between the two countries, and therefore that is obviously hurting economically. So these facts drove the S&P sharply higher as we take a look at the chart. So take a look here. This is the S&P futures chart, and this is where we closed yesterday. You can see a lot of chop, but we had a nice little rally yesterday. Overnight or yesterday evening, we saw that news break. The futures, when they reopened at 6 p.m. Eastern time, had a big gap up, a run higher, a sideways chop, and are trending higher into the open today. We are looking at about a 2.5% upside move on the S&P 500. Now, what's so fascinating, guys, and this is what I just absolutely adore with charts. You know how passionate I am about the charts and understanding probabilities. And what we saw was when we looked at the S&P the last couple days in the game plan, we saw that low pivot from the retrace from that huge update 2 Wednesdays ago. We saw that we held that low on a closing basis. Let's go take a look and refresh ourselves. So if we bring up the SPX, and this is just the amazing thing about the predictive nature of the markets, right? We knew that as long as we did not close below this low, that the bullish pattern of consolidation was intact, right? So sure enough, you have your big green up day on 2 Wednesdays ago. This was the 9th of April. That's your flagpole. And then you got your retrace. That established your low pivot right there. As long as we didn't close below, and I said this on this day to you guys, I said, guys, if we close below, probabilities, and notice I'm not saying, oh, we're definitely going up or down. Again, there's no such thing as 100%. So it's all about probabilities. As long as we stayed above that level on a closing basis, favored the upside. And obviously, I position myself accordingly with my members in smart money stocks and ETFs. So if we flip back to that chart, we can clearly see that we stayed above it. This was yesterday. If we flip over to the ES daily chart, the S&P futures daily, we draw that same trend line in. This is us today. All right, now, in terms of upside, where could this market be going? I said this to you a while ago. Short-term resistance will be 55.25, but I expect the S&P still to go to about 5,700. All right, so again, this gap fill, which again, we talked about all this sideways chop before the big dip on the markets. That was really the trade war escalation and the talk of firing Powell and all that stuff. That was all in there and catching a lot of these buyers off kilter. And so what the thought process is, as we rally up into this level, there will be some sellers there. I'm going to change the color of that arrow so we can see it better. There will be sellers that are just happy to get out break even that we're buying in over here. And that's what creates a gap fill resistance point, that at that point, I will start nibbling on shorts. And again, I haven't really nibbled on any shorts. I think there was one. There was PGR. And I'll show you guys. This is one that I put out to members right over here. We shorted this right up in this range here because, again, parallel channel. And again, you have the downsloping trend line right here, which basically told me, okay, sell into that. PGR is, again, ridiculous how much money they're making. I even think it could be a target of the Trump administration in terms of one of the key components that is inflationary when we're talking about insurance rates. But the point being is that's done actually really, really well. It did bounce yesterday and set to bounce today. But aside from that, I've been picking up plays on the long side, NVO, Amazon, Google, like high quality names out there that have been good setups as long. And I repeat, guys, the key for me is just technical charting, meaning that if we had broken this level here, it would change the whole bias to the market. And you have to be flexible as a trader, right? I mean, everyone likes to pigeonhole you and say, oh, well, 5 years ago he said this, so he must still believe that. No, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The charts are the dictating force. They are what is going to determine which angle you expect the markets to go. We held this level, therefore upside is likely. You can see the move up so far. Now we have to take out this short-term high, which was that big Wednesday high flagpole, and then we'll see if that move up comes to fruition to my target of around 5,700. NASDAQ 100, same sort of thing. Amazing because the NASDAQ, remember what I showed you guys in yesterday's game plan? How if we go to the intraday chart, we can see that we were trading during the day last Monday. On Monday, we were below until the final candle of the day closed us above. That maintained the bullish bias of this retrace from this big flagpole. So flagpole, retrace, and look, if you zoom in, look, we did close above it, not by much, but that's all it takes for the bullish probability to be maintained. And then really, what do you have here? You have essentially a flag, right? Here's your flagpole and there's your flag. And now again, if we can get a break here, we retest this high. And eventually on the QQQ, you're looking at around 476 as your big gap fill. So pretty cool stuff, guys. Again, listen, charting, again, as I always say to you guys, there's no such thing as 100%. I have my fair share of losers, but it's the ability to pivot when the market tells me to, but it's also the ability to see that, okay, this bias still stays. Therefore, my probabilities still favor this. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not letting my emotion, force me into saying, oh, well, I got to chase this up here or freak out and sell this down here. What are the charts telling me? Shut off all emotion, be as robotic as you can, and make the decision based on the charts. And that honestly is the essence of what I do and what I do to try to teach you guys in these game plans, in my course, and all of that stuff. All right, so let's go on. As we know, the 10-year yield with any sort of backing off on Powell is making global central banks, governments, even individual investors feel more confident about investing in U.S. treasuries. Remember, the more buyers of treasuries, naturally the interest rate goes lower. Today, we can see the 10-year yield is backing off to 4.29. Now, listen, it's still holding this trend line, so we have to see here what ends up going on. This is going to be a major level to watch, but if we can come down here, we watch the level. If we break, now the probabilities flip. You have to confirm. So let's be fair. You must confirm below this line. But if that happens, then you start actually aiming for back down here. Now, we can't assume that. So understand that as of now, just pure probability wise. All right. And again, I always want to stick with pure probability. We probably touch this line, but then we could just as easily start another leg up unless we confirm below the trend line. All right. Then the probabilities flip. And all of a sudden, things start to look like we're heading lower. All right. The next up I want to discuss, guys, and we'll get to gold. We'll get to Bitcoin. I know yesterday I forgot Bitcoin, even though I had said I was going to talk about it, but I did a separate video later on to make up for it. I apologize. But in any case, I won't forget it today. No doubt about it. And it is really interesting. All right. We're going to start with Tesla here. Tesla reporting earnings. This is when they reported earnings. Look, it chopped and it did nothing. Literally nothing. Like, price was within a few dollars of the closing price, even though their earnings were horrendous. Their earnings were absolutely atrocious. But no one cared about that. What they cared about was what Elon Musk was going to say. Was he going to say that he was going to step back from Doge and focus more on Tesla? Or was he going to say, screw Tesla, I'm going to do government cuts and all this stuff? He basically backed off, saying he was going to cut back on Doge. The stock ripped higher. It also ripped higher because of the backing off from Trump on both tariffs and the trade war with China a little bit, as well as the comments on Powell. Tesla has now soared up to 256. Is there a tradable level here? The answer is no. I mean, if you look at where we're trading, we're only up here. I would only start to mess around. Maybe gap fill at 272 today would be a quick day trade short, but that's at this point all I'm looking at. The stock is too oversold for me to really get involved. Now, I want to be clear on this. Eventually, I think we come down and break this low here and we go down here. Okay, but that's not in the cards for today, needless to say, as the stock is getting a boost both on the Trump news as well as the Elon Musk news. Another stock that reported earnings yesterday after the bell was Enphase. This is a solar-related stock. The stock getting crushed on earnings, trading at 47 and change. If we go to the daily chart, I'll show you the level I will be patiently waiting for. I doubt it hits today, but there is a trend line down here. Let me see here. Which was the trend line I was looking at here? Oh, it's right over here, I believe. Yeah, there's a trend line right down here that is around $40, give or take. And if we did come down into that level, we're at 47 and a half. But if we dumped out to about 42 to 40, that would be a major technical support. We can see, again, this trend line here looking very, very ripe. But again, stock price very much away from that. This morning, we did get earnings from Boeing. Just to go over some of these earnings, guys, Boeing is rallying higher. Now, part of this is that they did better than expected on earnings. They beat on earnings. They were expected to lose $1.54 per share. They only lost 49 cents, and their revenue beat by not a lot, but by a slight margin. But also just the mere fact that the stock market is rallying is helping almost all of these stocks rally higher. Boeing is around 173, and if we look at this here, that's right up in this range, right? So there's a gap fill on Boeing at 173.30. We've already hammered on that. So I'm going to be looking more at the 179 level. There's a gap right here, plus double top at 183 to 184. AT&T reported earnings this morning. They came in with a initial pop, but now it looks like the stock is rolling over. Again, we saw this with Verizon. These are much better. These have been defensive plays in this market environment. And what we can see here is the stock has been rallying. So versus Boeing, which has been hammered, versus a lot of these other stocks that have been hammered, AT&T has actually been rallying higher. The other thing to note, look at this pattern: shoulder, head, and shoulder. So again, there's a bearish, head and shoulders are bearish for those of you that may not know or be familiar. And again, what we could see here is that it hasn't broken the neckline yet, but this is on watch. Okay, why? Well, basically, if this breaks the neckline, we can calculate the general target price of where this would go. How do we do that? I do this every once in a while for you guys. We take the high of the head, the exact high of the head to the highest point. We drop our plumb line right down to the neckline. We take that distance, and wherever it breaks, let's just say it breaks over here, that would be your downside target. Look at how amazing this is, folks. That low coincides perfectly with this pivot low right here. That would be your target. Now, again, please understand that if this never breaks and it goes and takes out the head high, then that pattern is fully off the table. This has to come down here over the next, let's say, I don't know, few weeks or whatever, and break this line here. You need a daily close below 25 and a quarter, basically. Then it's game on to the downside. If that doesn't happen, then it's inconsequential what we just did. All right. Other stocks this morning. This is one we had in Smart Money Stocks and ETFs. So congratulations if you're in that service. VRT. We had this at $69.88. It traded, we actually exited around 84 and change today for an over 20% gain. Look at the rally on earnings today. Again, these charts are just beautiful, right? Look at all this support down here. This is why I bought it initially in the service. But look at this area right here. We grabbed it in this range here. And then again, the pop on earnings today. I would consider a day trade short only if it gets to about 91.50. There's a gap fill right there. But aside from that, great job again if you're in Smart Money Stocks and ETFs, 20% gainer to start the day. All right, now we flip over to gold. Gold. All right, so you guys know I don't mind putting myself out there. And I think that's one of the reasons why you guys like me. At least I think so. Could be other reasons too, granted. But it's that I'm not afraid to make the tough calls. Like if I'm thinking it, I'm going to tell it to you guys, and I'm going to give you not only why I'm thinking it, but the technicals behind why I'm making calls and why I'm putting my own money at risk. Like I literally told you a couple days ago, I said I just tripled my short on gold, tripled it, not just doubled it, tripled it because of the factors in the charts. Well, let's go back to that chart. What were the factors, right? Well, we had to move up right into this area here, which if we go to our weekly chart was the two parallels. So parallel number one starts here, connects perfectly to this low, and we had it right there. Parallel number two goes back to 2011, the last major bull market in gold, and connects right through the bear market lows right here and right over here. X marks the spot. How often do I say that to you guys? When you get two factors or two trend lines that emerge and they cross and then price crosses into that, the odds of it being a major top are exponentially higher. Okay, so that's when I see that, it like raises the odds of success of my trade to like 80% plus. Now, listen, I'd say rarely are you going to do better than 80%. I mean, 80% is fantastic odds if you're, if you're a gambling man, right? I mean, that's just amazing. But the point here again is, yes, we went a little higher, and look at the pullback. If we go back to the daily chart, topping tail yesterday, that's a reversal bearish signal. And then look at the down move today. Now, just like that, I'm in the money on my gold short. Now, where am I looking for this? Like, where will I be taking at least some off the table? Right here, right around 3150 to 3140. This former pivot will be likely where I take some off the table. At that point, gold will have dropped, all right, from the high here. That'll be a 10% correction on gold. All right. Now, listen, do I think it could go a little bit lower? The answer is yeah, I do. Again, you have this level right here. I actually think it could go as low as 3,000 or 3,050 and retest that major even number from the upside to the downside. But smart money, at least for me, tells me don't get too greedy, right? Greed is honestly, we always hear greed is good in markets. No, it's not. It actually makes you emotional and try to get too much out of things. I want to be the Hall of Famer that goes to the Hall of Fame, singles and doubles. Call me Wade Boggs, call me whatever, Tony Gwynn, whatever. That's who I want to be. I know for those younger generations, you may not know that in those names, but suffice it to say, that's what I grew up on, and that's what I want to go to the Hall of Fame as right here. I don't need to be Mark McGuire and take steroids, right? I mean, that's just not what I need to do. Just singles and doubles will make me a multi-millionaire many times over, as it has at this point, and that's the key, right? So right here, again, that's what we're looking at here on your downside. But again, good hardcore technical probability-based analysis that, again, it didn't mean it was going to be right. And I was fully aware of that. But there was about an 80% success rate on that trade. And here we see it playing out. Now, if we get down a little bit more, I probably put a break-even stop in, protect my downside in terms of the short, right? And that's other little mechanisms that we can do to protect ourselves. All right, so amazing stuff there, guys. Silver, I wish there was more to say on silver. I know a lot of you guys love your silver, and I love silver too. It just isn't as exciting as gold right now. Silver continues to make bullish consolidation, so that's good. It still favors the upside. This is not a high 80% success rate upside. I would say this is 60, 65%. So yeah, it favors a pop up here, but it's, again, by no means is it like 80% like that gold pullback level was. Okay. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin. All right. So amazing move on Bitcoin. If you followed along in the game plans, I guided you guys, bull flag. We broke out. This was at least going probably to 92,000. We now find ourselves above 92,000. Is this a bigger breakout? I was doing hardcore analysis, right? So last night and this morning, anytime we get above levels, I say, listen, I got to check my levels. I got to double check, triple check, quadruple check, because you don't want to be caught off guard. Like, it either breaks out above 92 and confirms, or is there something else that we're kind of eyeing here? And I want to show you guys this on the charts. So if we flip back to this, and I'm going to flip over to a different chart on Bitcoin. So it's just a Bitstamp chart, which is fine. This is another thing that I'm looking at. Okay. This might be where, if we hit this today, I may actually short Bitcoin. Now, again, over here, everyone was like, oh, why isn't Gareth short Bitcoin? And now everyone up here, well, not everyone. I know a lot of you guys are are smart cookies. But you'll hear a lot of like, oh, I can't believe Gareth's shorting Bitcoin, right? But it's all about the charts. It's all about the charts. This trend line here goes back to the 2017 bull market high on Bitcoin. It cuts right through the exact high of the 2021 high. It cuts right to high pivot and high pivot. Like, holy cow, a trend line that literally marked the exact first high and second high. And then look, what does this line look like? If you compare this line to this line, to me, that looks like a parallel to this line. And if we look at this, it almost looks like this. Look, the low, the low, the low. Then it pierced, but it got back above. Pierced, got back above. Hit it, pierced by a minor level. And then look, right there. So for me as a technician, I'm now eyeing the 96 pierce as a potential short. Now, again, will I be right? Will I be wrong? I don't know. We're going to find out. But again, as always, folks, I'm not shy about making calls here. So listen, I'm not saying, listen, I haven't shorted it yet. I haven't shorted Bitcoin yet, but I am saying to you guys and giving you guys a heads up that if we got above 96 today, I might be inclined to pull the trigger on a starter position short on Bitcoin. Now, please understand, I love Bitcoin long term. Like, I've always said that, guys. You look at what's going on in our government, the craziness there, the Federal Reserve. There's a place, in my opinion, for Bitcoin in our society, in the global society. I love gold. So remember, just because I shorted gold up there and we're making money on the downside doesn't mean I still don't have my bags of physical gold that I still think will go up over time. So a good trader can say, hey, listen, I got my long-term holdings, but if I think it's going to pull back in the near term, why wouldn't I make some money on that pullback, or at least hedge my long position so that I ultimately make even more money, right? I mean, I think that's the guidelines there of what we want to remember. So we'll watch this on Bitcoin, guys, and see where it goes. All right, lastly, and I apologize, this is going a little long. I got to get to my trading room. Look at oil. It kissed the underbelly here. I'm not short oil yet, but this is about as good of a bear flag as you can get. I'm still not short yet. I'm still kind of eyeing this area, but it is a good potential bear flag. And then same thing here. We have a downward move. I'm looking for this level around 297 on natural gas. That'll be your next big support. I don't know if I'm going to buy it there, to be honest. I'll have to reevaluate, but I'll keep you guys posted as always. All right, guys. Wowzers. What a day. What a last couple days. Amazing stuff. I love showcasing how the charts, I mean, from the S&P to gold to the Bitcoin bullish flag pattern there that just before this move, it guided us. The charts are like a foreign text. If you learn to read them, you're not always going to understand the text. Like sometimes it's above all of our heads, but oftentimes we can understand it and it can guide us to what I call the profit land, right? Ultimately guiding us to making great trades. You guys have a great rest of your day. You guys are seriously awesome. Thanks again for supporting us, folks. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do this game plan if you guys weren't into it. Trust me. I got other things I'd love to do, but you guys make me want to do this every day and try to bring my A game. And so I'm going to try every single day. Love you all. Thank you so much. Take care.